My name is Merrick Garland. I am the United States Attorney General. The parent company of TikTok Incorporated is ByteDance Ltd. ByteDance is subject to Chinese laws that require it to cooperate with the Chinese government's intelligence work and to allow the Chinese government to access and control the private data it holds. This means China could access vast amounts of sensitive data about American TikTok users. In 2024, Congress enacted the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, which makes it unlawful to distribute, maintain, or update a foreign adversary-controlled application, including TikTok, unless the application undergoes a qualified divestiture. This means that if ByteDance does not sell TikTok, the app could be banned from being updated or downloaded by new users in the United States. This act is justified by two compelling national security interests. 1. Protecting Americans from TikTok content that could be covertly manipulated by China, and 2. Preventing China from accessing sensitive data about American TikTok users.
My name is Noel Francisco. I represent TikTok Inc. Congress's act restricts the speech of TikTok Incorporated, an American corporation, and American TikTok users, because the content of that speech could be covertly manipulated by China. This content-based restriction triggers strict scrutiny, meaning that to be constitutional, it must 1. Further a compelling governmental interest, and 2. Be narrowly tailored to achieve that interest. However, the government does not have a compelling interest in preventing Americans from receiving content that may be manipulated by a foreign government. Even if it did, the act is not narrowly tailored, as there are less restrictive ways of protecting TikTok users from altered content than banning the app if ByteDance fails to divest. Therefore, Congress's act violates the First Amendment.
I'll be the judge of that. The question before us today is whether the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary-Controlled Applications Act, as applied to TikTok, violates the First Amendment's freedom of speech clause. And our answer is no. The act does not violate the First Amendment.
I concur.
So do I.
You're allowing TikTok to be banned in the United States unless ByteDance divests. How did you make that decision?
Laws that target speech based on its content are subject to strict scrutiny and will only rarely be upheld. However, contrary to TikTok's position, Congress's act is not content-based. If ByteDance does not divest, TikTok will be prohibited not because of the content created and shared on the platform, but because the platform is subject to the control of China, a foreign adversary. We will uphold a content-neutral law such as this one if it satisfies intermediate scrutiny, meaning it must 1. Advance an important governmental interest and 2. Not burden substantially more speech than necessary to do so. The act satisfies intermediate scrutiny because it furthers an important government interest by preventing China from using ByteDance to capture data from U.S. TikTok users, and it does not burden substantially more speech than necessary to further that interest because it is a direct, effective way to protect Americans' data.
But data protection wasn't Congress's only motive in passing the act. Congress also wanted to prevent China from covertly manipulating content on TikTok. That is clearly an example of regulating speech based on its content, which triggers strict scrutiny.
The congressional record shows that Congress would have passed the act based on the content-neutral data protection justification alone. Thus, the act satisfies intermediate scrutiny and does not violate the First Amendment rights of TikTok or its creators.
I concur. However, I want to emphasize that the Act's provisions are certainly subject to First Amendment scrutiny, which this court only assumed rather than decided.
I also concur. I am glad this court upheld the act due to the government's data protection interest, not due to its interest in preventing covert content manipulation by China, which could potentially violate the First Amendment. I am also unsure whether the act should escape strict scrutiny, as it may not be content neutral. However, I do believe it serves a compelling interest, preventing China from spying on millions of Americans' personal data.
Great. Unless ByteDance sells TikTok, the application can be banned in the U.S. on January 19, 2025.
You rule, Supreme Court.
You suck, Supreme Court.